What's up, everybody? Welcome to Breaking into Data Engineering. 5 shifts to earn 150 grand to $1 million per year. I'm very excited. I'm happy you're here. Let's jump in because I know your time is precious. So is mine. So let's just get to it. So, who is this presentation for? This presentation is for anybody looking to break into a data engineer role or equivalent, right? So, data analyst, business analyst, BIE, anything in the data space. So, whether you're simply wanting to accelerate your career from a data analyst to a data engineer, a data um, engineer into a cloud architect, or whether you are just getting your first experience in big tech or just first experience overall, right? At a college, at a grad school, this is for you. And in case you're wondering, no, you don't have to have a CS degree in order to be here and benefit from this presentation. So, what is this presentation going to cover? Well, in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to show you how you can earn 100K, 200K, 300K more in compensation by learning how to add a real business value. And you don't need to do this without doing some hard nosed negotiation tactic, without working 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week, nothing crazy. That's not needed. Now, I'm also going to show you how you can receive multiple job offers for work that you're going to love to do. Again, even if you don't have a CS degree, a lot of people let this be a mental blocker. It's not a mental blocker these days. So, or it's not an actual blocker these days. Now, I'm also going to show you how you can have a long, successful career in big tech. And no, you don't need to leak code for months in order to achieve all of this. This is not just a one time thing. You can actually have a long, successful career by implementing what I'm going to show you. Also, in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to show you how you can accelerate your path to a DE regardless of what you've been doing for the last couple of years, even if you've been stuck in the same role without any real direction. I'm going to show you how you can take that same role and leverage that role, leverage that experience, leverage that resume to accelerate your career progression and make you the go to data person at your next company. And finally, I'm going to do all of this without doing a 6 to 12 month boot camp, without you having to go get a certificate, without you having to continuously reach out unsuccessfully to people on LinkedIn and other sites. I'm going to show you how you can do that, do all of this without any of that time consuming, annoying stuff. So, before we get into all of that, does it make sense? And more importantly, I have a promise for you. I'm going to show you a step by step game plan so you know exactly what you need to do and exactly what the top paying firms look for you to earn that 150, that 500, or even that $1 million per year. Now, does this sound like you? Before we get into all of that, I just want to take a moment and check in with you. Because if this does sound like you, it is going to be very important. So, what am I talking about? Do you feel like you're working twice as hard for half the pay of those around you, just knowing all you need is a chance? Are you seeing others fulfilled in their day to day jobs, wondering, okay, what are they doing right? What am I doing wrong? I'm doing everything I've been told. What's going on? Does that sound like you? Are you maybe going into work every day and just not really enjoying it? Maybe you're not getting along with your manager. Maybe, something's causing you stress, something's causing you tension. And maybe that tension is translating to be between you and your loved ones. Is that you? Does that sound like you? Or maybe you just feel like you have a lot of potential in your current job and outside of it, but you feel a little burnt out. You just don't see a path to becoming a data engineer or a lead engineer or any kind of engineer. And maybe you're just looking for a way out. Does your work drain the life from you, meaning you have very little left over for your loved ones, but at the same time, you know you can't quit and you just don't know how to advance. And so you're feeling stuck and burnt out. I've been there. That's why I'm asking. So, finally, do you dream of having that high paying career? All of that status that comes with it, all of the compensation, but you're just not sure you have what it takes to achieve it. So, does any of that sound like you? So, here's the big question. Are you anxious you'll be overworked and underpaid in a job that drains the life and energy out of you for the rest of your career? If any of that sounds like you, I have good news. None of this is actually the problem. The real problem is that you haven't done the shifts yet. And I'll go into those shifts in a second. But just know that if you do make those shifts, this is going to be the outcome. Like I said, we just went over the real problem. You haven't made the shifts. But more importantly, here's what happens when you do make those shifts. You'll be seen as the expert and go-to person on your team with anything regarding data. It's going to make you an in-demand resource, not only at your company, but at other big tech companies trying to poach you every single week, because data is going to keep growing in demand, and so you will grow in demand with it. You're also going to recognize that there is no ceiling to how much compensation you can make in the long run. Staff engineers are currently making millions per year. Why? Because they bring in 10, 20, 30x in value for that company. So that company has no problem paying them $1 to $2 million a year. You're also going to feel energized every day. Every day you go into work, and you're going to get to work with some of the smartest people in the world. So that's going to really accelerate your learning, and it's going to make you even more in demand in the future. Additionally, you're going to, straight up just love the fact that you're making 5, 10, 20K per month more. You're going to have the funds and the freedom to live how you want, and you're going to give your family everything that they deserve. You'll finally have the status that you've always wanted, be seen as that go-to expert, and love the job that you're doing, knowing that you didn't have to spend years playing some office politics or getting certificates here and there. You're not going to have to do any of that. So, right before we start on the shifts, who am I? Why should you listen? I've been a data engineer at big tech companies, Amazon, Lyft, even startups where I was responsible for building entire data infrastructures from scratch. I've gone from earning 60 grand a year to 450 grand a year in only 5 years. And I've worked with multiple people who are making millions per year. So I know exactly what they're doing. Now, I'm also not someone who comes from a formal CS background. I have a math and economics double major, and somehow I was still able to become a lead data engineer, which I'm going to show you. And finally, I've interviewed, hired hundreds, if not over 1,000 people, 1,000 candidates for these big tech companies and startups. And I've also helped clients break into those very same companies to become data engineers, data experts. So let's move into the shifts. Now, shift number 1 is extreme ownership and an open mind. And this one is a mindset shift. You have to have these two traits if you're going to be able to implement every other shift that I'm going to be talking about. So, shift number 1, extreme ownership. What is it? Well, Jeff Bezos, in his leadership principles, describes ownership when you go beyond what is expected of you. So, never saying, hey, this is not my job. You have to go beyond your job beyond your scope, and beyond what's expected of you. And in order to do that, you're going to have an open mind, because those who show up and do the work with an open mind versus those who don't, that's going to be the difference between those who see the results and those who don't. It's that simple. Now, the thing about extreme ownership and having an open mind is that if you don't have an open mind, you're going to make the same mistakes people have been making for years, if not decades. And you're going to settle for another job that has no room for growth. But if you do show up and put into work, you'll find yourself with the smartest people working on the most interesting problems at a company that will grow along with you. So that brings us to shift number 2. You need to stop leak coding endlessly and without any direction. Look, if you don't know what leak code is, you're better off not knowing it. Now, if you do know what leak code is, here's the thing. Data engineers don't actually need to leak code in order to become a data engineer. It is a huge waste of time. In fact, the reason that most people spend months, and I know people who spent over a year leak coding, is because they read it on some Reddit post, or it's the common advice that software engineers usually get. And frankly, a lot of times they just don't know where to start. And so they default to the classic advice, the most popular advice. The thing is, the most popular advice is wrong. And so, believe it or not, the algorithmic portion is only 20% of the data engineer interview at most. In fact, getting a data job can be done even if you are stuck in a role without any path to becoming a data engineer, and definitely not by leak coding. So, you're probably wondering at this point, how? Well, this brings us to shift number 3. Shift number 3 is called the gap method. The gap method is the method that we're about to discuss that will help you break into the tech industry and become a data engineer. But if that's the new way, let's quickly go over the old way so you know what not to do. What you shouldn't do is leak code, bulk apply to a bunch of companies, look up mock interviews on YouTube, reach out to a bunch of people on LinkedIn. Wait until your manager promotes you. That's a big no-no, bigger than you think, especially if you're earlier in your career. Number 6, not negotiate when you do get a job offer. When you get multiple job offers, you should definitely negotiate. You also shouldn't read all the classics, right? All the classic interview books that were written 5, 10, 15 years ago. Not all of them are applicable anymore. That's the truth. Also, asking forums for referrals, right? Blind, Stack Overflow, etc. Referrals aren't really what get you a job. It's going to be your skill and it's going to be your interview. And then finally, free online projects. A lot of people think that managers are going to see their GitHub link, they're going to click on it, they're going to evaluate your project. They won't. They don't have enough time to do it. So this is what I call the test and hope method. You're going to test out all these 9 things. You're going to hope that one of them works. Sometimes they do. A lot of times they don't. And a lot of times people who do end up getting the job is because they just tried everything for a year and then finally something worked. But you don't want to spend a year. You don't want to waste a year. That's very, very valuable time. And time is the biggest asset any of us have. So does all of that make sense? People are following the wrong advice, bad advice, and then giving out that bad advice online, in forums, on videos, in books. And none of that advice is relevant, to be honest. And so I hope you stop what you're doing and you stop the old way. Because here's the thing, we have a much better method to show you, the gap method. So the gap method is the new way. You identify your gaps, you fill up those gaps and interview prep at the same time, and then you get multiple offers and make sure to negotiate. That's it. You don't need a CS degree. You don't need to reach out to anybody on LinkedIn, and you definitely don't need to leak code. It's as simple as identifying your gap and then filling it, and then using that newfound skills that you've developed to interview and get multiple offers. So let's go into a little more detail. What do I mean by filling in the gap? Well, here's the thing. The main question here is, how is the interview constructed? Well, the data engineer interview specifically contains these rounds: behavioral questions, AWS/system design, data modeling, Python, SQL. Not only that, but if you look, Python is only 10% at most. This is why I'm saying you don't need to leak code as much as you think. Not even a little bit, to be honest, but you do need to focus on other areas. So when I say identify the gaps, what you can do is you can look at a job post, identify where you're lacking, and then go fill in the gap, go learn those skills, and interview prep at the same time. There's no reason to do 50 online projects. There's no reason to go get your master's in computer science. And there's no reason to leak code for a year when none of that is on the interview, as you can see by this chart. Because at the end of the day, tech companies care about, can you do the job and can you add real business value? And I'm sure that you can on the job, but the problem is, can you break into the job in the first place? And this is what the gap method does. It identifies your weakness for what the job post is about, and then you can fill up your weaknesses, fill up your gaps, and get the job, and then impress them while you're on the job and learn on the job while you're getting paid a lot more money than you currently are. So let's discuss this further with an example. I want you to meet Akash. Akash, before I met him, was leak coding for over 5 months, over 200 problems, wasn't receiving any job interviews. And it was letting him think, leading him to believe that his lack of experience was going to prevent him from landing the job he really wanted, his dream job. So we took a look at his individualized gap, gave him personalized feedback on the three big gaps that he had. One of them was actually really, really simple. It was cleaning up his resume. And so what happened next was nothing short of astonishing. Within just 1 month, he started receiving recruiter calls to 75% of his applications. 75%. That means for every 4 applications he sent, 3 companies wanted to talk to him. That went from 0 to 75% just by fixing his resume. Now, there's a lot to discuss, so let's just fast forward to today, because Akash was able to receive multiple offers, was able to use those to negotiate against each other, and then he successfully accepted a job at a company, a FAANG company, and it allows him to work with top tier engineers and continue to learn from the smartest in the industry. Not to mention, he can travel and work from home, so he can basically travel all year round, which he is currently doing. He actually makes close to 200K a year with only a few years experience, and he's enjoying working with the massive petabytes of data every single day that is only accessible to a handful of people in this world. He goes to work satisfied every day as he sees a clear path to continue earning and learning every single week. So that brings us to shift number 4, which we briefly already touched on: reverse engineer the interview. So what exactly does this mean? Well, knowing what companies are going to interview on is the fastest path to becoming a data engineer. It is the fastest path. It is the straight line to becoming a data engineer, because you can then tailor your learning while also prepping for the interview right from the start. And it will cut you years from your learning curve and career progression. You don't have to go do extra AWS projects. You don't have to learn weird Python libraries that you're never going to touch again. All you have to do is start prepping for the interview right from the start and then learn the data engineer skills at the same time. So, half the crowd is going to interview prep by learning from books that were written 5, 10, 15 years ago on computer science fundamentals. But as I said before, the data engineer interview has nothing to do with it. The other half is going to do a bunch of DE projects, whether it's AWS, whether it's data modeling, or whether it's some other random thing that you're starting to hear a bunch of buzzwords about, like Snowflake or Databricks. Projects that managers, A, will not be impressed by, B, will not test you on, and C, will not click on the project links on your resume. They won't. Why do I know this? Because I've seen the recruiters and the managers go through resumes. They don't have enough time to look through every single project that's on people's resume. And so they've started to not even open it to begin with. That's the truth. The truth is, managers and interviewers, such as myself, we ask a very specific set of questions. And so the question to you should be, why not learn your data engineer skills while also studying for the data engineer interview? And that leads me to the fifth and final shift. You need to invest in personalized training and expert support. And if you've never done this before, I understand that it can be scary. But here's the truth: it can be stressful, exhausting, and very costly to waste years doing the wrong things that companies, frankly, just don't care about. Now, the trick is for you to learn what is it that they do and don't care about. But before we even get there, you have to realize that every year that passes you, you're giving up hundreds and thousands of dollars in compensation. It is called opportunity cost. Even worse, you may not even be doing work currently at your current company that is setting you up for success. You may be burning out for no reason, as that work may have nothing to do with your next role as a data engineer. So, getting help from an expert will drastically cut that process of 5 years of learning to 3 or 6 months, because that expert can give you better peace of mind. And there's no better way to get peace of mind than from learning from a mentor who is 5, 10, 20 years ahead of you. They can share the biggest mistakes to avoid. They can introduce you to their network, and they can give you advice for the rest of your life. But more importantly, they can dramatically and drastically cut the learning curve by years and save you years of not knowing whether you're doing the right thing or not. So that was shift number 5. Now, let's go over what I had promised. I promised that I'd show you how you can earn 100,000 or more in compensation by learning how to add real business value, not negotiation tactics, not 60-hour weeks, none of that. Just, okay, how do we learn exactly what the company is looking for on the job description? And then how do we use that to get past the interview and get an offer? Because then once you've developed those skills, you can then use those skills to give companies real business value. I've also showed you how Akash had received multiple job offers for work that you'll love to do and that he loves to do, even if you don't need a CS degree. And then once you receive those offers, you can negotiate successfully and you can go on to have a successful career in big tech without any leak code necessary. Now, I also promised that I'd show you how to accelerate your path to a DE, even if you've been stuck in the same role for years without any direction. That was the GAP method. That was reverse engineering interviews. And you can leverage your current experience and your resume and accelerate your career progression. That way, when you do get to that next company, you can become the data person, the go to data person. And as I've said, you can do all of this without having to do a 6 month, a 9 month, a 12-month boot camp or get some certificate, some AWS certificate. You can also continuously reach out or without continuously reaching out to unsuccessfully to professionals on LinkedIn. So, with all of that said, here is what you need to win. You need the 5 shifts. And so I'm going to go over it one last time. You're going to need extreme ownership. You're going to need an open mind. You're going to need to stop leak coding endlessly. You're also going to be using the GAP method. And with that GAP method, you're going to need to reverse the engineer interviews. And finally, once you've done all of that will become easier if you're able to invest in personalized training and if you allow yourself to use expert support. So, with all that said, now you have a choice. That choice is either you can continue on the path you're on and you can continue hoping that professionals on LinkedIn will respond and refer you to their companies. And when they don't, you might be left wondering why they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars more to provide for their families, while you are just left wondering what you are doing wrong. You can also cross your fingers, right? And hope that your current manager all of a sudden sees the good work you're doing, even though they haven't seen it so far, and hope that they just begin to progress your career. And you can continue feeling burnt out for years to come, even as you go on to do projects you find aligned, while you just secretly stress out that the material is irrelevant and that your skills and hard work is going to waste. Or you can take on a new path. And in that new path, one where you can enter a career path with really no ceiling on the compensation you can make. You never have to worry about providing for your family for decades to come. You can start to be seen as the data expert and the go to data person on your team. And not only your team, but other companies, amongst your friends, amongst your family, amongst your loved ones. And finally, you can wake up every single morning excited to solve really cool business problems while working with the smartest engineers in the world, leading you to have companies fighting for you, startups adding you as an advisor, and never having to worry about getting an interview at another big tech company ever again. So the choice is yours. Now you have a choice. Now, how can I help? Well, here's how I can help. My team and I have set aside some time in the next 48 hours to speak with you personally about how you can apply these ideas to your studies starting today. Whatever your biggest challenges are, we've seen it. We've seen it all, and we know how to overcome it. We have a team dedicated to every single aspect that we've discussed: resume, AWS, SQL, Python, negotiation, anything. We've been through it. We've helped a lot of people. We know exactly what the biggest challenges are. Furthermore, on the session where we speak with you, we will work with you to craft a step by step game plan for you to hit your career goals and in turn increase your income by 30, 50, even 100% at your dream company. And if that sounds crazy, we've done it before. We do it a lot. And The cost? The cost is absolutely free. The cost for this call, the cost for this session is absolutely free. But here's the thing, there's one catch. And the catch is that it's not for everybody. In fact, not everybody is a good fit. So, who is this for? You must be willing to accelerate your path by trying new methods, specifically the gap method we discussed. You must also have that first shift, an open mind in order to take feedback and criticism and use it for your own advantage. You must be okay with pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and not be scared to get rejected along the way, even if it's by other companies. And so, if all of that does sound like you, great. You should book a session now. So, as we've discussed, we can discuss if it's a good fit for the both of us. If it's not, that's fine too. But you might be wondering, why are we doing all this? Well, we do this because we know that people struggle to know what is exactly necessary to break into a data role. We love helping people cut their learning curves. I mean, we A, done it ourselves, but B, we understand that tech is very fast moving. Data specifically is blowing up and will continue to blow up. But with that fast paced growth, it can be very, very, very hard to know how to actually break into a role in tech, especially big tech, especially as a data engineer, which is a relatively new position related to other engineers like software engineers. And so we love giving people that clarity because once we give people that clarity, we see the impact it has on them. We see how it opens up their eyes to seeing how much simpler it is than they originally thought. And so, like I said before, we can discuss if this is a good fit for the both of us. If not, that's perfectly fine. So, with that said, if you're interested, head over to deinterview.com sat apply. deinterview.com/apply. Go over to that link and book. Now, spaces are very limited, so sign up. The truth is, we try to take a very limited amount of people per month, per year, because we can't help everybody. If we try to help everybody, the amount of support everybody gets decreases drastically. And so, if we can go with a smaller crowd, then we can drastically help one on one in group calls, that kind of stuff, to really help people utilize the gap method, find their flaws, find their gaps, and fill them up while also prepping for the DE interview. Now, we know you want to break into tech as a data engineer, so we can talk about that on the call. So if you go over to deinterview.com/apply, then you'll see a selection of times in our calendar. So go ahead, pick a time that works for you. Then there'll be a very short application form so that we can come prepared. We can come more prepared to help you for the call. So then we'll jump on a call. We'll talk about how we can help you break into big tech or just tech in general. Or if your goals are a startup or a medium sized company, we can help there too. And I promise you that it will be the best 45 minutes you ever spend working on your career progression. And like I said, the cost is absolutely free. And all you have to do is go to deinterview.com/apply. And once you do that, all you have to do, fill out your application, and then we'll give you a call at the phone number you provide for 45 minutes, and we're going to give you a bunch of advice for free. And if at the end you decide that this is not for you, that's perfectly fine as well. And we can go on separately. So I hope you got a lot of value from this today. And I hope that now you see that breaking into tech, big tech, medium tech, startup tech, as a data engineer is not as hard as it might come off on some Reddit post or some other forum. And I hope you got a lot of value from this presentation. I hope that you'll break in to tech and become a data engineer and then be seen as that data expert amongst your friends, your family, and your coworkers. And in today's day and age, being seen as that data expert it is huge. People will look at you and realize that, wow, like that's a really cool cutting edge profession to be in. And so, like I said, go to deinterview.com/apply and apply, book a call on our calendar. And we're excited to meet you. We're excited to meet you. We're excited to get to know you. We're excited to hear your story and, learn how we can help and learn what you've been through, learn what you want to go through, and we'll tell you a lot about ourselves as well. So, one more time, deinterview.com/apply. Spaces are limited. We don't accept everybody. We need to know that it's a good fit, and we're looking for very specific things. So, go to deinterview.com/apply, and we're going to give you a call, and we look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you so much for watching this presentation. I hope you got a lot of value here, and I hope you go and implement the GAP method if you decide not to book that calendar call. But we'll see you at deinterview.com/apply. Have a good one, guys. Bye.